Hi everyone, welcome to another video on Love is Blind UK, and this time I'll be focusing on Javen's behavior and share how I would assess the credibility of Megan's accusations against him as an outsider, with only evidence from the show, Javen's appearances on social media, and my knowledge of personality types. So first, disclaimers, spoiler alert, I'll be discussing up to episode 8 of season 2. I also understand that it's an edited show. I am only analyzing the characters portrayed. I also believe that people can grow and change. This analysis is for our own learning and reflection only. Please do not use what I say to bother the cast. So in order to overall assess the chances of Javen being unfaithful or at least disrespectful towards Katisha on a night out, I first refer to some concerning behaviors and attitudes that Javen has demonstrated during their relationship. Firstly, it seems like with Katisha, Javen generally has quite a dismissive tone and attitude when he talked to her.
I can definitely see this. You bringing me my morning coffee?
Maybe.
We see this when Katisha tried to discuss coordinating their busy schedules so that they are able to eat together on weekday nights.
I am a bit worried about managing our expectations of each other's.
What are your expectations?
Just kind of aligning our schedules so that we can eat together.
It's important to you to eat together.
Yeah, it is.
And here, Javen's tone and expression made it sound like it's ridiculous to want to eat with your partner on a regular basis, like high maintenance much.
It's important to you to eat together.
Yeah, it is.
How frequently?
Pretty frequently.
I need numbers. Every day?
7 days a week. No, I don't know. Like
2 days a week.
However, what are you going to be doing the other 5 days a week?
I don't know. Sometimes I work late.
If you're both working full-time jobs, dinner is really the only time during a weekday that you spend together. So suggesting 2 nights a week means weekends only. Does this sound like a man who wants to spend any time with her?
Yeah. My mum says that a promise is a comfort to a fool, so I don't make any promises that I can't keep.
Javen also only offered a late dinner in the hopes that Katisha wouldn't want to eat late and declined the offer.
Monday till Thursday, from 6 to like 9, I'm not even here. So those are 4 days where we're definitely not going to be eating dinner together, unless you want to eat late.
Because when she turned out to be okay with late dinners, suddenly it no longer worked for him.
Well,
That's what I do.
I usually eat late anyway, to be
How
fair.
late?
Because I always train after work as well, like 9, 10 o'clock.
Oh. I'm in bed by 10 o'clock though.
But do you know what Javen thinks is worth scheduling more than dinner? Sexy time.
On the sexual side, do you feel like you have any requirements? Once a week, 2 times a week?
Another concerning behavior was how Javen consistently redirected blame and deflected negative attention off of himself. One example was when Katisha discussed her concern about them being seen as the weakest couple by the other cast members.
I just feel like the couples are asking questions and I don't want people to create a story for me. I feel like everything that they've discussed or been talked about is all assumed.
And Javen sort of put the sole blame on her and her confusion with Demila, when in reality, I think his own coldness and lack of seriousness also played a huge part here.
I think, obviously, I understand why they're asking questions, to be honest. When it went from Demola's coming out feeling confident, and the next day, it flipped.
Another example was when they returned home from the cast mixer, where Javen was flirtatious with several women, in particular Sophie, and Katisha looked super depressed and defeated after.
It was good to see everyone.
How's your child, Sophie?
And when Katisha tried to probe Javen about Sophie, he immediately deflected the attention and blame by mentioning Demila, a reminder of how Katisha wronged him first.
It was good chatting to Demola. That was interesting.
What do you mean interesting? In what way?
In the way that I was intrigued to know.
Then when Katisha probed him again the next morning, this time about the mixer's after party, Javen claimed he was oblivious to the fact that Katisha was very upset.
That was last night.
It was good to be with everyone.
So who was there?
Everyone that was at the mix was there, except on the couple side. It was only me, Kieran and Megan.
Do you think that you could see that I was upset before you left?
Not really.
And because Katisha wasn't super direct and was unable to vocalize her upset in the moment, Javen's claim of ignorance can be seen as reasonable. Like, you didn't say anything, you can't expect me to read minds.
If he was, I'd wish he'd express it, but...
You can also argue that Katisha was being quite passive, and I'm not saying that Katisha can't be a better communicator.
Very tired. Night.
However, it's also based on the context, and in this specific scene, I can also argue that if Javen was unable to determine that Katisha's facial expressions and demeanor to mean soul-crushingly depressed, and Javen does not have any sort of functional developmental reason like autism for not reading the room, then he was either extremely incompetent, generally heartless, or he chose not to notice because he don't care. Take your pick. And then when Katisha does start to express her upset, instead of creating a safe space to hear her out, Javen almost interrogates her, insinuating that her feelings were not valid.
Yeah, I was a bit upset last night.
He was upset?
Yeah.
About what?
I was just surprised that you went out.
Why?
Just because today is important to me, and I didn't know if you're going to be hungover or like...
I look hungover to you.
Well, no, but I didn't know, so...
You don't trust me to not meet your parents hungover?
He did not show any regret for abandoning her in her time of need, whether it's unknowingly done or not. Instead, Javen deflected the blame onto Katisha. He made it about her personal trust issues and expressed how offensive he found it that she would paint him in such a bad light.
Well, I wouldn't want to meet your parents hungover.
Do you not trust me to not meet your parents hungover?
Well, I've never experienced you hungover, so I don't know what you're going to be like.
All right. Because you know that I'm not stupid enough to do something like that. Hopefully.
It's as if he's saying, if you think I'm not stupid or irresponsible, then I don't want anything to do with you. Sort yourself out. The thing is, right, Javen's communication can be so vague that he seems to constantly operate on plausible deniability. For example, in the dinner scheduling conversation, Javen never directly said, I prefer we eat separately, I don't want mandatory time with you, Katisha. He merely asked questions in a dismissive tone and said that he won't make any promises he can't keep, which makes it almost sound like he's just being realistic and considerate of you. Basically, you can't pin him on just one dialogue or one interaction. You can't pin him on the words he says. It's his overall coldness, dismissiveness, his condescending undertones, his actions and inaction, versus how someone would behave when they're in love, when they have affection for someone. Being with someone who behaves like Javen, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Each paper cut itself is so tiny that one can dismiss as nothing, but cumulatively, it paints a very bleak picture where there is no love here, merely manipulation and control. Plausible deniability tends to be associated with the function NE, extraverted intuition. NE is a function that's good at flipping meaning. NE can quickly find multiple explanations for the same thing. NE types can have an answer for everything and explain away anything in a very plausible manner. Everything they say can be interpreted in multiple ways. It's flexible if you're being positive, or slippery if you're being negative.
I've had many arguments with people like Jav who just go over and over the same thing and trying to deflect the argument onto the other person. So I had to remove myself from the conversation because we were going nowhere.
For example, on the show, we see Javen say in his intro that he does not compete for women. And we all took that to mean that he was flexing and a game player. So because of some backlash he's getting on social media, Javen responded on the show's official podcast that he said he does not compete for women, i.e. he's not competitive and just wanting to win when he's dating, therefore not a game player.
It don't make sense because the first thing I said is I don't compete for women. If she wants me, she wants me. If she wants Demla, she wants Demla.
You see how he's trying to flip the meaning of his words here. He's claiming that he's not competitive in dating, but he's just competitive as a former sportsman. That's why people have misjudged him.
You know, people use language in certain ways. I think maybe because, you know, sports background, but no, I wouldn't objectify a lady like that, so...
However, I think because he's not NE dominant, the effort seems almost childish, a bit forced, because we all knew what he meant. He said he does not compete for women because he does not need to, i.e. he's that good. He's comparing himself to other men in the dating arena, meaning he is in competition. Another example was when Javen said on the show, "I don't find it hard to date multiple women." So on his own TikTok, Javen explained that he's not saying that he usually dates multiple women, that he's referring only to the process of Love is Blind specifically, where they start off going out with 15 blind dates.
Alright, so this is where obviously they're planting the seeds early doors, isn't it? Like, oh, this is the player guy, da-da-da-da-da. If you think about what I'm saying, we're about to date 15 women. So, get out of it. I stand on that one.
Again, this is what I mean by the function NE, flipping meaning. Here, he's trying to flip the context of what he's saying. He's not talking about dating in general. He's only talking about the process of Love is Blind UK. However, I would ask then, why is he not fazed by the prospect of 15 blind dates? Why does he not find that overwhelming? Does it not suggest that he has some experience outside of the show in juggling multiple women, especially when he said it in such an arrogant tone? A final example was how Javen defended himself against accusations of coming on to other women at the Mixer and the Mixer after party.
Are you gonna say anything else or just stare at me?
So the show had the usual Mixer where everyone, even the unmatched singles, all meet in person for the first time. Javen was filmed being very flirtatious with Sophie.
So we're gonna have to...
I can't sit in this dress.
Why can't you sit in the dress?
Unless everyone wants to see my vagina, Javen.
No comment.
Arguably, you could say that Javen and Sophie were behaving quite inappropriately, given Javen's fiance was literally a few feet away.
You're not dating right now?
No. Do you want me to go and date everyone? Like, what do you want from me?
What do I want from you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Why are you laughing?
Nothing right now.
Stop it.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And judging by how they behaved with each other, I'm guessing that Javen and Sophie probably did date a bit in the pods. Production just didn't include it in the edit. Basically, there's potentially unfinished business here.
We're gonna get told off in a minute for still chatting. But I feel like we haven't finished our conversation.
There's still more to go, isn't it? There's still more to unpack.
And on the show's official podcast, Javen tried to explain away his flirtiness by relabeling as friendliness.
Would you say that you consider yourself to be a flirty person?
I would say I'm a friendly person.
Friendly.
So what do you want me to do? Go in the room and just be there like blank face and just not say anything?
Mate,
Like,
absolutely not. I agree.
And also claiming that he'd shut down the woman's advances at every turn.
If you look at
A little bit flirty.
Anu talking to me, you look at Sophie talking to me, I wasn't entertaining them. I was just laughing.
Sure, maybe if we get a transcript of the scene, Javen did say no on the surface to any flirtations coming his way. Like, oh, stop it. No comment. I don't want anything from you.
You don't live far from here, right?
Literally 5 minutes up the road.
Okay.
Why?
I'm just asking.
Okay.
You're naughty, you know. You gotta stop.
But once you see all the visuals, their body language, facial expressions, voice tone, it's the classic no means yes, a flirty tease. This is how the function SI introvert sensing can play with semantics, arguing pedantically about language, what was literally said, and also how an E, extraverted intuition, flips the meaning of the same word, same sentence, same action. So keeping in mind what I've said thus far about Javen, I'm going to walk you through how I would assess his argument with Megan as an outsider who obviously did not witness the events that are being argued over, how I would decide what the truth might be. So Megan made accusations of infidelity against Javen that ultimately led to Katisha leaving him.
But I'm not gonna lie, like he went straight to Sophie. Yeah, and he was chatting to Sophie a lot. And then I watched them get into a photo booth.
What? They were taking a photo or just like...
Well, I didn't see any photo, like...
Fuck off!
After the mixer, which was filmed, and we were able to witness how Javen generally behaved around Sophie, some of the cast had an after party which was not filmed, and Megan accused Javen of being overly flirtatious with Sophie, Yolanda, and Anu, and possibly made out with Sophie in a photo booth.
Yeah, and I spoke to him and he said, oh, we were having a chat. And I was like, why did you need to have a chat? He was like, nah, it's nothing. Like, it's this convo that we had in the pod. Like, I was like, wait, but why would you need to do that in the photo booth? And he honestly, like, it was the weirdest thing that he just kept laughing. He was just being like, really like, yeah, like nothing.
So Javen later on accused Megan of basically making everything up, but I would note that Megan was not just a bystander in this instance. Instead of doing nothing at the time and just reporting back to Katisha behind Javen's back, Megan had actually in person confronted Javen at the time, getting really involved.
And then the thing that like tipped me over the edge, I was like, why was that necessary to hang out with all those girls tonight? Like, I don't get it. Like, you had all your boys there. And he was like, well, Yolanda makes me happy. What? Anu makes me happy. Katisha makes me happy. And I was like, mate, what planet are you on?
Thus, I find it quite unlikely that Megan would make up such an elaborate lie, where she first made up what Javen did with the other women, and then also made up their imaginary conversation afterwards when she confronted him. The fact that Megan confronted him in the moment tells me that Javen was behaving in such a incriminating way that 1, Megan had to speak up in the moment, and 2, she was confident enough to confront him because the behavior was so obviously inappropriate. Megan is generally viewed as very credible because based on the show edit, she never really had anything to do with Javen, thus had no reason to lie.
Part of me wants to give him the benefit of the doubt, but on the other hand, I'm like, Megan has no reason to lie. Why would she lie?
And I think because of this, on the show's official podcast, again, Javen seemingly tried to discredit her by revealing that Megan and Katisha were actually his top 2 in the pods, kind of insinuating that Megan may have motive or beef with him because in the end he chose Katisha.
You wouldn't think it, but when it got down to the last couple of days, it was Megan and Katisha. Which is actually quite funny when you think about episode 8.
Is Megan the redhead?
Megan's the
Yeah.
Oh my God, that changes everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think she's trying to stitch you up because, oh, sorry.
However, if I had to assess Megan's motives, 1, Megan looked ecstatic to be with Kieran in the pods, so it seemed unlikely that she'll have any bitterness or beef towards Javen about not ending up with him. 2, I could argue that it makes sense to me why Megan would be more aware and paying attention to Javen's behavior at the after party because he's kind of an ex and therefore make her account of events more accurate because she was paying attention. 3, I would also expect that Megan would have heard from her fiance Kieran that Javen had expressed to him earlier that evening that he's not in love with Katisha.
What if you can genuinely see the rest of your life with it, but you don't think you're in love yet?
I mean, my question would be, how can you see the rest of your life with someone that you're not in love with?
That might be the position I'm in.
Interesting.
I don't think I'm in love. I don't know. I don't feel like that.
Megan and Katisha had bonded in the pods over their trust issues with men, and so again, it makes sense to me that Megan would pay attention to Javen when he showed up alone at the club at the after party after telling Kieran that he's not in love with Katisha earlier the same evening.
Honestly, like I'm so mad at him because you've told me what you've been through and I'm just like, nah.
Literally, it's like a play-by-play. The behaviour is so like my ex.
Yeah.
You've basically just done the same thing.
And the fact that he's listened to you as well, like,
I told him about my history.
Yeah.
So, on to the actual big confrontation between Javen and Megan, which Javen initiated.
Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
That's right, mate.
Obviously, a few things to discuss. I'm sure you guys are aware Katisha is no longer here. And a lot of that is predicated based on, from my understanding, what you've discussed with her.
Yeah.
And I just want to dissect some of that because from what she told me, there were some half-truths to what was said. So
Okay.
So if I were to analyze this almost like a chess game based on Javen and Megan's personality types, both of them have TE extroverted thinking as their top function, the hero, so both would naturally argue based on facts and logic, i.e. events, actions, what was said, etc. The difference between their strategies would be that Javen has SI, introverted sensing, and Megan has NI, introverted intuition. SI, introverted sensing, is very detail-oriented, as in concrete details, the who, what, where, when, how. SI dominant types tend to have a very detailed memory of their subjective experiences.
apparently I spent all night with Sophie and Yolanda.
What, at the club? All I ever saw you with was, I saw you with Sophie, Yolanda and Anu.
So you never saw me sitting and chatting to Patrick? You never saw me sitting and chatting to Demola?
Personally, no, I didn't.
Okay, so would that equate for all night then? Because all night, I was there for about 2 or 3
Well,
hours.
I was enjoying myself, you know, I'm not here to watch you all night.
Okay, so then if you was enjoying yourself all night, then how can you tell someone that you saw me with them all night?
And semantics is very important to SI, especially for SI parent, the second position. How you say or word or even punctuate something exactly can change its whole meaning for them.
So then if you was enjoying yourself all night, then how can you tell someone that you saw me with them all night?
The thing is, it doesn't
That's
matter
not
how,
factual.
it doesn't even matter.
No, but
the amount of
it does
time.
matter, because the way that you say something, it matters. If you say something in a way that isn't true, then you're insinuating something. And if you're insinuating something that isn't true, then it's a lie.
And this is how Javen argues against Megan, that her account of the events was highly inaccurate in the literal sense. For example, 3 hours at a club is not all night, and that he spoke to Yolanda for 15 minutes exactly only, and that Patrick was present when he was speaking to Yolanda.
Tell me why you were chatting to Yolanda.
I spoke to Yolanda for about 10-15 minutes.
You were chatting, you were all over Yolanda.
No, I wasn't.
You were all over Anu.
Doesn't even make
sense. You
sense.
also mentioned how Sophie
Because Yolanda
is
was
someone
here.
that you'd like to fuck, but you would just leave her.
I never said that.
You did,
So,
mate, you did.
Yolanda was right here. Patrick,
Mate, I don't
Patrick
care.
was here,
I saw what
and
I
Demola
saw.
was there.
I told.
And for argument's sake, I don't think the time factor is all that relevant, because it only takes one glance to undress someone with your eyes, and it only takes a minute to kiss someone. Interestingly, when Javen was questioned about the argument with Sophie that he claimed he had, we never got any details of what the argument was about, which you would think would be helpful in giving more clarity.
About what?
You and Sophie in the photo booth.
In the what? In the photo, but the photo booth was off.
Why were you in there?
That's just where we ended up arguing.
Were you getting a photo, or?
I just told you the photo booth was off.
So why were you in it if it's not working?
I just told you we was arguing in there.
Why?
Instead, we got more deflection and hyper-focus on the photo booth curtain, focusing on the minute detail. His main defense seemed to be that the curtain of the photo booth was not drawn.
What was I doing? I was arguing with Sophie.
Were you arguing though?
Yes, I was.
Didn't look like arguing to me.
What does it look like?
Look like you were chatting to each other.
We was arguing. And
why did you go into a photo booth to argue?
The photo booth was open, and the first thing is that I didn't want to argue on the dance floor, screaming and shouting in front of everybody.
I don't know, it didn't look like that to me.
Well, it doesn't matter what it looked like to you, because obviously your perception was wrong.
However, again, for me, the curtain status was irrelevant to the bigger picture, because he said so himself. The whole point of going into the photo booth with Sophie was to get away from other people, whether it's to argue or make out.
Because the photo booth was open. It wasn't like a photo booth where there's a curtain or it can hide. The photo
I'm pretty
booth was,
sure that it was.
I saw you and Sophie chatting, I saw you go into the photo booth and the curtain was closed.
There was no curtain.
Curtain or no curtain, it seemed like he was behaving inappropriately, intimately with another woman, namely Sophie, whilst his fiancée was not present. And Sophie is someone who he did date in the pods and finds physically attractive. So why would he put himself in that position to be easily misunderstood in the first place?
In hindsight, the easiest thing would have been for me to just not go out and just stayed in that night.
As for Megan, her dominant function is NI, introverted intuition. Intuition dominant types focus on intent and meaning rather than the actual action or the details of the event. The priority is not the accuracy of their account, but their read of your intentions and motives.
I was quite surprised to see Jav turn up on his own.
I don't appreciate Jav's behaviour last night. He was quite cosy with some of the pod squad girlies.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Sophie. And it was like, he has been giving me eyes all night.
NI, in particular, out of the two intuition functions, is a style of intuition that comes with a sense of certainty. NI projects all the possibilities but leans towards one. So, unnecessarily going into a private space with Sophie, jokingly proclaiming that all these different women make him happy, that's bad enough in Megan's book.
I saw Jav acting in a certain way with some of the pod squad girls, and he did take one of the girls into a photo booth, which in my eyes there is no reason to be doing that.
And Megan knew that Katisha would have viewed Javen's actions as hugely disrespectful, and Megan also knows that Javen knows this too.
I think he knows what he's done. It's agree to disagree. You live your life, Jav.
For Megan, it's what Javen's overall behavior revealed about his intent and mindset that incriminated him, not what he literally did or did not do.
I saw what I saw. I told Katisha. Don't be mad about it. All I think is Katisha deserved to know what you were doing because you weren't.
I already told her that on the Wednesday morning.
Well, then what's the issue?
I already told her that.
Then what's the issue?
I don't know what the issue is. The issue is that you obviously lied.
You're the one that's brought us around, mate, to have a conversation.
Because
so you do have
lied
an issue
about something.
I literally told Katisha what I saw. I don't care if you don't believe it, to be honest. I don't care.
It doesn't matter.
I don't care. If you want to
believed.
sit here and deny it, I don't care.
Megan and Javen's dynamic was also interesting because their dominant parent functions are the other person's blind spot, which is another reason why they were at a deadlock. Javen has SI, but Megan has SI blind spot, which means Megan's attitude is the details and semantics don't matter. What matters is the intention I read from you. Whereas Megan is NI dominant and Javen is NI blind. So Javen thinks, how dare you be so presumptuous and claim to know anyone's intentions for certain? No one can make those claims. You're not me, you don't know my experience, and there are so many other plausible explanations for my behavior. So, having said all that I've said in this video, look, I am aware of the fact that the producers have probably edited certain scenes in a way that made Javen look even worse than in real life. Real people are more complex. No one is pure good or evil. However, it doesn't take away the concerning behaviors that were demonstrated overall. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I hope it was helpful and interesting. If so, please like, subscribe, and share to support my channel. I've developed my own methods of interpreting and assessing personality types. If you would like us to analyze your personality type and make sense of your relationships, communication, and decision making, then please find booking details in the description box below.